for summer, basically. So, Joe, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. And thanks everyone for joining us today. We're going to run through some stuff here as far as refrigeration. Hopefully everybody, I am sharing a PowerPoint. This PowerPoint that I'm sharing, I will give to Jessica, and she will make sure that anybody who would like this has access to it. So some of the things we're going to cover today, just some basic stuff, refrigeration units, you know, what they are and what they're actually designed to do to the use of many people. Loading and delivery procedures. We're going to take a look at some power management stuff and ended up with some telematics. So one of the first things we want to talk about is refrigeration. So refrigeration, you know, basically is the process of removing heat from where it's not wanted, transferring that heat to an area where it doesn't affect us. So in the transport refrigeration industry, obviously, where we do not want the heat is inside the cargo box. So we're using our unit to remove that heat and then again put it out into the atmosphere where it doesn't affect us. And of course, the faster we remove this heat, the faster the temperature will come down inside. And it's very important that we remove that heat faster than heat can enter. So there's a lot of different heat sources that we'll talk about that will affect our unit, affect your trailer, affect the product going forward. So we'll get into that in just a few minutes. So at Thermo King there again, our refrigeration units are machines that move heat. You know, of course, everybody likes to think they make cold, but technically that's not correct. It's a machine that's designed to remove heat from an area where it's not wanted, transfer that heat into an area where it's not going to affect us or our product. So all temperature control units are designed to maintain product temperature. And that's very important. And as we go through this presentation today, you're going to see more and more that this product is designed to maintain temperature. If given enough time, it does have the capability of changing temperature, but that is not what anybody's transport refrigeration system is designed to do. It's designed to maintain temperature. So at Thermo King, we have a large selection of trailer refrigeration units, as you can see from the slide that's showing here. We are the only manufacturer that offers, for you that run California, a totally CARB compliant for life unit. Those particular units are designated with an S. Our C units have a 7-year life in California. So there again, if speccing new equipment, if you run California, or anytime you're speccing new equipment, we work very closely with all of the AIM sales force. They work very closely with a local dealer and also with myself. So when it comes time for new equipment, we do have the units that will meet your needs for sure. Also on the truck product line, we have a large selection of truck products, and actually changing that product line up, we're going from what we call our T80 series to a T90 series. Probably will be released later this fall or first part of next year. So a lot of changes to the units to make them more efficient, fuel savings, higher capacity, so on and so forth. The one thing that isn't listed in here is we also offer a full line of equipment for your smaller. So anything from vans to cargo vans to sprinter vans, shuttle buses. Thermo King does have a refrigeration unit pretty much for any application that you may need. And there again, work with the AIM sales folks. They're very educated in it. They do a great job. And as I said, they work very closely with the sales force at Thermo King. Also, along with that, and the other reason that it's very important that you work closely with them is there's a lot of different options depending on what you do. You know, if you run the extreme north, we have a severe duty package. We have an Arctic package. If you like your units to look really nice, we can give you, different color units with chrome grills. But more importantly, when it comes to the operation of it, different things that we can do. Smart power. You know, are you going to want it to run on shore power? Also, telematics, as food safety becomes more and more telematics. And we'll talk about some of the little options here after after a bit. Another factor to always take in is heat gain from other things. So as a trailer or a truck body, as it gets older, the insulation in it will start to deteriorate, and obviously will affect the heat transfer from outside inside the cargo area. Also, speccing the piece of equipment correctly up front, making sure that if you're hauling deep frozen, that you have a trailer that's designed to do the deep frozen. So just getting into one of the big areas that we see is loading and delivery practices. So on a regular basis, we may get phone calls saying that a unit's not bringing the product temperature down or the unit's not cooling, only to find out that the unit's doing everything it can, because as you remember in one of the first slides, a unit's designed to maintain temperature. And what we find is loading procedures, delivery procedures, and also the way that the equipment is loaded will have a huge effect on the product and being able to maintain that product temperature properly. So a few of the things that we'll look at there as far as on the loading and delivery procedures, product packaging. I'm not sure who all we have on the phone, but we may have some manufacturers that are actually packing the product. But also for you that aren't packing it, to take a look at it to make sure that it's kind of in the right packaging, because it will definitely affect it. We'll look at cargo temperature, unit operating procedures, and then airflow. So product packaging is extremely important. You know, number one, crush resistance, because of the fact that it's stacked usually pretty high. If it is frozen products, most of that should be in solid side packing. Fresh products should be in vented side. And one of the reasons that we need that, especially the fresh products, in a package that allows for it to breathe, is because of something called heat of respiration. So as that product is ripening, and of course the warmer the product it is, it's actually producing and generating heat. So we want to be able for that heat to be released out of that product. So there again, our refrigeration unit can grab that heat, pull it out of the cargo box, so we keep the temperature inside the trailer at the desired temperature that you need, and keeping the product at that temperature. One of the next things we want to talk about is pre-cooling and storing cargo at desired temperature. It's extremely important when that product is loaded onto any transport refrigeration truck or trailer that that product is at the right temperature. There again, if you remember, our units are designed to maintain temperature. So if a product is supposed to be at 36 degrees when it is loaded, we really need that product to be at 36 degrees when it goes on. So the importance of making sure that the product is pre-cooled, making sure that the product is at the desired temperature before it is loaded, will absolutely be crucial in order to have, you know, a unit that maintains temperature throughout a whole day of deliveries. So there again, as we load that, we want to make sure that that product is at the desired temperature, because refrigeration units are designed to maintain cargo temperature, not change it. I can tell you over the years, many years of experience of getting phone calls late at night saying that a unit's not cooling. When you start investigating, they say, well, we loaded cabbage out of the field this afternoon and it's just not coming down. And there again, very important that it's at temperature, because it'll take a long time for it to actually pull that product down. Unit operating procedures. So it's extremely important before you load any unit. As you can imagine, a truck, trailer, sitting out there in the sun, internal temperature of that body is going to be extremely high. The walls are going to be extremely warm, the insulation and everything else. So it's very important that you allow a unit to pre-cool. You should let that unit run at whatever the desired set point is going to be, and remove the heat out of the body. Another great thing is all of our units have the capability of doing what we call a pre-trip. There's a running pre-trip or a full pre-trip. And basically, by running a unit through a pre-trip when you first go out there and start it, it checks that unit's operation to make sure that everything is 100% before you put the product in. So you walk out, there's a couple buttons that you can hit. Anybody there that has a question, always work with your AIM service personnel, and they can walk you through how to do a pre-trip. But the importance of that is, before you load that trailer, you run it through a pre-trip. There is up to 300 different codes today that units can pop that will tell you what's wrong. Anything from low oil level to low refrigerant level or cooling capacity. So by doing a pre-trip, we're making sure that that unit is 100% operational before you put your product on. The pre-trip takes anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes to do. The nice thing is you walk out, you start your unit, you set the temperature, you hit the pre-trip button, it's going to run through a pre-trip, and then it's going to run to the desired set point. So you don't have to go back out and monkey with it. But the important thing is if that auto pre-trip, if that trip fails for any reason, it is highly recommended not to load that trailer or truck and contact your AIM service center or obviously a Thermo King dealer for assistance. Unit operating procedures. So set unit controller. So over the years, we've obviously, and there's some pictures of quite a few different ones, over the years we've actually changed our controller quite a few times. So it's very important that you understand all the different controllers and how they operate. Very important that after you set what you believe is the correct temperature that you double check, verify. We run into a situation, we actually even have an alarm code for, we have people who will go in there, they think that they've changed the set point, but like in computer, they forget to hit the enter button and they walk away. Our units today will say, hey, somebody was monkeying with set point, never hit the enter, and it throws a code. But always very important on the controller, once you've set it up, to make sure that you verify the settings. There again, I can't tell you the number of loads that I've seen lost over the years because of incorrect settings. Unit, as far as selecting mode of operation, so just real quick, we can run in two different modes of operation. Them two different modes are called continuous run and cycle century. So the way continuous run works, once we start that unit and the engine is started, that engine is going to continue to run until we turn the switch off. Okay, so you have constant engine run, constant airflow. Certain products absolutely need that continuous run operation. And if, as you see on the left-hand side of the screen, we show a lot of those, your fresh fruits, flowers, non-processed meats, your fish, so on and so forth. Very important to have that constant airflow, and that's what we call continuous run. Now we have cycle century, so for different products that aren't quite so temperature sensitive or that aren't generating the heat like a lot of your fresh products, you can run in cycle century. So cycle century, basically the unit starts, the engine runs. Once we've reached desired set point and a few other settings, battery fully charged, so on and so forth, the engine actually shuts off. We continue to monitor box temperature. When we see that box temperature, and they're again adjustable, when we see that box temperature start to drift away from set point by about 5 degrees, we actually start the engine back up and bring the box temperature back down. So huge advantage with cycle century, as you can imagine, is reduced maintenance cost, and of course the one that we all are near and dear to is diesel fuel. So obviously by shutting that unit off, we're saving diesel fuel. Okay. We did talk about this. There's a couple of these slides that kind of repeat themselves, but they're very important information. So pre-cooling the trailer truck body is to the desired temperatures with the doors closed. Obviously, that's going to pull the heat, any residual heat that's in that body out. If you don't do that, you've already behind because when you put the cool product in there, as we know, heat moves from a warm object to a cooler object until they're both the same temperature. So you will see that product temperature increase. And there again, it's going to take some time to pull that heat out. And depending on what the product is, it may damage the product before we ever get the heat pulled out. And there again, very important that the doors are closed. And we'll look at a couple slides here in just a minute. So if you are loading in a non-temperature controlled dock, it is absolutely important that you shut the unit off. Bring our temperature of our trailer down to the desired temperature, and then load the product on there as quickly as possible. If we allow that unit to operate with that rear door open, all we're doing is blowing what we call conditioned air, the air that the refrigeration unit has removed the heat from. we're blowing that air out of the trailer onto the loading dock, and what we're pulling in is that nice, warm, moist air out of the loading dock. So very important whenever the trailer doors are open or truck body doors are open, best thing to do is have the refrigeration unit shut off. If a unit runs while the doors are open, there again, exactly what I said, that unit's blowing that conditioned air out and pulling the hot, moist air in. And as you can see, the drawing on the bottom shows that nice conditioned air, of course, the cooler air on the bottom is falling out the truck and we're pulling warm, moist air in. So very important, whenever doors are open, that reefer unit should be turned off. Very important to load product quickly and effectively to provide adequate airflow circulation, and there again, to get that load stabilized as soon as possible. There again, product should be at temperature when it's loaded. First closed, pulled away from the dock, and we get that temperature, the heat that we allowed to enter into that trailer. We get that heat pulled out and get that load stabilized as soon as possible. Once you do have that unit, the doors closed, start the unit, reconfirm whether it's a continuous run or cycle century type load, and then set your temperature, double checking to make sure you're at the right set point. If it is below 40 degrees, you can initiate a defrost cycle. So if you're running extremely cold, what happens is the refrigeration unit is not only removing heat, it's also removing moisture. As that moisture sticks to our cold evaporator. And as that moisture sticks to that cold evaporator, if we allow that evaporator to get down below 32 degrees, that moisture then turns to ice. The more ice that we put on the evaporator, the less air that we can move through that evaporator to pull the heat out of it. So it's very important, you know, especially if that unit was running with the doors open, which we should have been, it's very important that after you get them doors closed, initiate a defrost. What that's going to do is it's going to clean that coil. It's going to get all the moisture and ice off that coil. Once the unit switches back into the cool mode, we're going to have the highest cooling capacity possible, and we're going to pull that heat out to make sure that our product is stabilized as quickly as possible. Other things that are highly recommended if you are going to run the door, strip curtains on your side and rear. We know most people who are unloading a truck or a trailer do not like the strip curtains because hot summer days, they hold a lot of moisture, and as they go in and out of them strip curtains, it does create their uniform or their clothing to become very wet. Minimize the door openings. Keep the door closed except for when you're unloading.
There's the volume.
Doors. You know, open and closing the doors each time is optimal. There again, having the unit shut off is best. Now, if you work with your AIM sales personnel, Thermo King does offer door switches. So we can actually, anytime a door is open, depending on if it's a single temp or a multi-temp unit, on the single temp units, we can shut the unit off. On multi-temp units, we can put the zone that the door is open to null. So now what that does is as the drivers are opening and closing doors or compartments, the unit's doing it itself. The driver doesn't have to worry about starting and stopping it. The unit's going to take care of that itself. So there again, if that's something that you're interested or has interest to you, work with the AIM sales personnel on your future purchases, or we can add them to existing. Airflow. So there's a few slides in here in airflow. We're going to go through them relatively quickly, but I will tell you that many of times back when I was in the service side of the business and running call-outs, there was, I can't count the number of times that I was called in for a refrigeration unit not cooling, only to find out that the refrigeration was doing everything that it could. It was an airflow issue. So airflow is absolutely huge when loading. And as we run through this, you'll see that, you know, poor air distribution is one of the primary causes that product is going to be damaged. In order for a transport refrigeration unit to work and maintain temperature in any product, we have to have airflow around all sides of that product, top, sides, and bottom. If we do not have airflow, as you can see, the picture here is a very good representation of the unit product loaded all the way to the ceiling and the unit short cycling, and the product in the back is going to be damaged or have hot spots. So airflow is extremely important in making sure that our units work properly. There again, all 6 sides is what we're talking about, top, bottom, and all 4 sides of a package have to have good airflow. So one of the first things we look at is the trailer or the truck floor. Makes a big difference. We must have airflow through the floor. If it is a flat floor, then we cannot load product directly on the floor because we have lost our air return path from the back to the back to the unit. So extremely important that the floor, you understand the floor. If it is a T floor like the top of this, the floor needs to be clean also. All it takes is one piece of wood jammed in one slot, you know, halfway up or whatever, and you lose that slot. So airflow through the bottom of the product, either through the reefer floor or if we're using pallets, is extremely important. If it is a palletized load, there again, we're relying on that airflow back through the bottom of them pallets, pulling that heat back to the unit so it can remove the heat and keep the product at the desired temperature. It's very important that we don't turn the pallets. If we start turning pallets and all it takes is one pallet in that whole row, and it blocks that return airflow. Another thing that we run into and see quite often that restricts that airflow is they take the shrink wrap. And as they shrink wrap product, they wrap it right around the bottom of the pallet, blocking off that airflow. So extremely important airflow around the bottom of the product, either through the floor or through the pallets. And there again, obviously with food safety and everything else, the floor, extremely important if it's a T-style floor or a refrigerated floor, that floor is clean. The channels must be obstructed from debris. And there again, air chutes. Depending on what type of load and what you haul, the majority of the time, an air chute may be the correct thing for you. Work with your sales team, and they can help you with that. But what the air chute does is it allows all of the conditioned air to be pushed to the back of the trailer, and then that unit pulls the air back up through all the product, pulls the heat out of that product, and returns to the bottom side of the unit. Okay. Loading patterns, they're again extremely important that when a truck or trailer is loaded, that we allow for airflow around all sides of the box. If we want it to be maintained and the temperature held correctly, if we allow boxes to get up against the wall, it's going to stop airflow, and you definitely will have a problem with product temperature. And there again, the way that product's loaded, this is kind of like that first slide. As you can see up top, the importance of that conditioned air being blown out across the top of the load. We've all seen the truck or the trailer that the product is actually loaded right to the back door to the point where they have to use a forklift to push against the door to close it. There again, I can promise you that product on the back is going to be damaged. We have to have airflow across the top, down the back, through the floor, and return back to the unit. If not, what they're showing you on the bottom is exactly what you get. You have a unit that will be short cycling and product that will be damaged on the back side of the truck or trailer. The top drawing here we talked about, as you can see on the bottom drawing, that discharge air is coming out the top. That's our conditioned air blowing out across the load. In the bottom of that unit is where our return air comes from, and it's extremely important that return air is not blocked off. If that return air is blocked off, there again, we can't move air inside that trailer, and we're definitely going to have product issues. So there again, the importance of free cooling. Make sure not only is the trailer pre-cooled, but also all the product going on there should be at the desired temperature. If you're going into a loading dock, be sure that the trailer body is tight against the dock seals. If you have your own warehouse, it's extremely important as them dock seals are damaged that they get repaired. If that dock seal is no good or the trailer is in there sideways, that unit's running, we're going to start to pull in that warm, moist, humid air, and it's definitely going to affect our reefer unit operation. And there again, keeping that door closed as much as possible is extremely important. Minimizing the door openings, turning the unit off before the door is opened is extremely important. And I know it's a hard concept to grasp, but it's definitely to the best of for product, for reefer operation, for total to have that door, the unit turned off anytime that door is open. We talked a little bit about, as you guys remember, in the very beginning, we talked about a refrigeration unit, and it's designed to maintain temperature, but if given time, it will pull the product temperature down. So it's very important, the duration, number one, of the door being open, and then in between stops. So if we've got, a pedal route and you've got a lot of stops, the more heat we put in there, the harder it is for that unit to pull that heat out. And we may run into a situation if we're not careful, if we're not using strip curtains, we're not having that door closed, that by the end of the day, the unit's just not able to keep up, and we have product lost by the end of the day. So it's extremely important that we understand the longer the doors are open, the longer the unit's going to have to run to pull that heat out. And there again, by keeping the unit shut off, the less heat that we allow to enter, the better off that we'll be too. We did talk briefly about strip curtains and the use of strip curtains. Anytime that if you're going to have a door that's open for a long period of time, strip curtains definitely help keeping the temperature inside that area at a more desirable point and keeping the heat out. Dock deliveries. So if it's a non-refrigerated dock and you have a refrigerated truck, highly recommended that we shut that unit off, because there again, if not, we're blowing our conditioned air out onto their dock and pulling their warm dock air into our unit, and it's definitely going to create issues. And then also, obviously, cross-dock distribution, taking that product out, setting it on a nice warm dock for a couple hours. You can imagine what happens to product temperature. You then put it into a refrigerated truck, and it will take it some time to bring that product temperature back down. So minimize the amount of time that any product sits out on a dock is extremely important. Also for ground deliveries, a lot of companies have to do the ground deliveries, same thing, turn the unit off while unloading, minimize door openings, and where possible, use strip curtains. So that was just a touch of our risk management. We actually have a very thorough risk management that we actually go into warehouses, trucking companies, and do. If there's ever any interest for that, reach out to the salespeople at AIM if it's something that interests you. If you have a warehouse or you're looking for any of that type of information, reach out to the people at AIM, and always have the opportunity to bring Thermo King in and work with you to make sure that you're minimizing the risk and giving your product the best possible, taking best possible advantage of the refrigeration units that you're using. So a couple other things that we'll get into here real quick, only because of making sure that we keep your units up and running is extremely important. So we'll look just a little bit on power management. I'm sure there's quite a few people on the phone that are in distribution, multi-temp, maybe use some lift gates, if you're using telematics, external loads. So we'll look at some different things that we do offer that will help you manage and keep that piece of equipment up and operating as long as possible. So just a couple things on power management. So solar has become a huge product line for us. the more and more loads that we're seeing on our transport refrigeration units. And we're going to talk about telematics here in just a minute. And telematics creates a large draw on the battery. The solar allows us to compensate for that draw and keep our batteries at the optimum state of charge all the time, which increases, obviously, battery life, and with an increase in battery life, reduces downtime, which is extremely important. And we do offer a variety of different solar panels. We can tie up to 4 solar panels together, giving you 440 watts, which is capable of about 44 amps of charging. So if you have a trailer with lift gates, it is a very good way to make sure that your lift gate stays charged even when you don't have a truck hooked to it. So just some different options there with solar. If it is an interest, work with the AIM sales force, and they will be more than happy to walk you down the path of the advantages of solar. One of the next thing we have is a boost charger. So if you are running a lift gate, if you're running a lift gate and one of the things that you have is a stinger cord, we actually have a boost charger that eliminates having to have the extra stinger cord. So the advantage to that is any tractor can pull any trailer and have the availability of a lift gate. So just something else out there for you. There again, the boost charger eliminates the 7-way stinger, 1 less cable, keeps the batteries on your lift gate fully charged, and we actually charge through the 7-way on the tractor. Supplemental alternator. If you are running a Thermo King transport refrigeration unit, we offer a additional alternator for you to use for external loads. So whether it be lights, lift gate, whatever that external load is, and we'll even talk about electric pallet jacks here in just a minute, we can offer you an alternator to charge external for whatever it is else that you may be running on your trailer. And there again, it shows an additional alternator on our unit, which is totally designated 100% for external charging. Electronic pallet jacks. If you're in the food distribution business and you have an electronic pallet jack, as you know, throughout the day, your pallet jack is probably going to lose its charge, and in some cases, you get to one of your last stops, the pallet jack doesn't have enough charge to pull the product off, so you end up with a driver sitting there for a period of time while he's letting the pallet jack charge up. So we do offer an electronic pallet jack. As that truck is driving down the road, truck, trailer, whatever it is, we're actually using an inverter or a pallet jack charger to keep that pallet jack charged. So there's as much power in it at the beginning of the day as there is at the end of the day. So just something else that you may want to look at if you're using electronic pallet jacks. There again, help you reduce delivery time. One of the last things we'll talk about here, which will give us about 20 minutes, 15 minutes for questions here at the end, as I'm sure there'll be quite a few. There's a lot of stuff that we've covered here. One of the last things we're going to talk about is Track King. So Track King is a cellular-based system that allows you to track your asset, whether it be a truck or a straight truck or a trailer, refrigeration unit, anywhere in the country from a laptop or even a cell phone. So Track King has a satellite module that's attached to the refrigeration unit. That module uses the cell networks to provide information to a computer-based system of everything from location, speed, temperature. It also allows you to have two-way commands. So you can change set points, you can do pre-trips, you can verify that where a piece of equipment is. So Track King attached to your unit gives you the visibility of your unit anywhere in the United States, Canada, or Mexico from a cell phone or a computer. It also has satellite. Satellite is used for positioning only. So we use satellite for positioning to tell you where your piece of equipment is, and then we use cell-based information to give you the rest of the information on your refrigeration unit. So just some of the things that you can do with the telematics. You know, with a trailer, if you have a bunch of trailers that are in your yard, instead of having to send somebody out to do pre-trips, to initiate pre-trips, to set temperatures, it can actually all be done from a desk or from a cell phone now. You can make sure that a unit is alarm free. It is going to tell you if there is an alarm. You can have it set up so that it sends you notifications upon a unit shutdown, or if there's an alarm on a unit, you can have it set up so that it will send you a text message, an email, so that you know immediately when a unit's down, making sure that the unit's fueled. And there again, all of this is done over over the cellular network, and is tracked on a computer or on your handheld device of some sort. In transit, you can double check to make sure there's no temperature deviations, no reefer shutdowns, the unit is alarm free, the asset is secure, and that the fuel level is okay. We also, with the telematics, can control a rear door locking system, so that there's a internal lock, that the only way the doors can be open is through the telematics system. So a lot of things that we can do with the telematics, and just a few things: user-friendly, easy access to critical data. This data, as we get more and more into food safety, we basically keep and store this data forever. It's very easily accessed for up to 7 years, and then kept forever after that. And accessibility is a little tougher after 7 years, but we can still get you all the information. One of the really nice advantages is in a leasing fleet, instead of having to go out and collect hour meter readings every week or month to turn in for billing purposes, you can actually set it up to generate a report every Sunday night at a given time, that it will give you all the hour meter readings for your whole fleet. And like I said, another big advantage is two-way commands. So we can communicate with that unit, we can change set points, we can do pre-trips. We actually have a large customer that has pretty much taken the reefer controls out of the hands of the driver, and they have people who are at a computer, the dispatchers, that monitor everything. They know when there's a problem. They do set points, pre-trips, and everything, and they've taken more and more of that responsibility out of the driver. So that's, there again, is just a quick touch on our telematics. The AIM sales personnel are very aware of the telematics, actually have fleets that are on the telematics, and the capability of doing some demos with the telematics. So if it's something that is of interest, make sure you talk to the AIM sales personnel, and they can get you led down the right path, and get you information on the telematics and all the products that we talked about. So with that said, it looks like we left ourselves about 20 minutes for questions. So as far as questions, I would invite any question that you feel like asking, from unit to capabilities to any other type of questions, comments, or concerns that you may have.
Any questions for Joe? And if you are on, everyone is muted by default. So if you do have a question, you just have to, on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, click the unmute, and then we would be able to hear you. Alrighty, well, as Joe had mentioned, I will send out a PDF copy of this presentation to everyone who participated on this call. And in that will be my contact information. So if you have any questions about AIM, please feel free to respond to the email and ask me. I can either help you or get you in touch with the right person. I'll also include Joe's contact information in there. So if you have any questions after the call and would like to reach out to him directly, I'm sure he'd be happy to help. Oh wait, I do have a question in the chat function. Joe, can you see that? Let me bring it up. It says, can you provide best practice for transporting ice cream during the summer months?
Yeah, absolutely. So ice cream, I actually had the advantage of working at an ice cream plant and with their transportation for about 16 years. So the best practice that I can tell you for transporting ice cream, you know, obviously the highly importance of pre-cooling a refrigeration unit, pre-cooling the box, making sure that the unit pulls down to temperature before you ever put that ice cream on. And then in the summer months, 100% for sure, running that unit on continuous run. Obviously, it's going to burn a little more fuel, but it is going to give you the best ability to manage and to protect that ice cream. And the other important thing is the speccing of the equipment that you're using. So, you know, not all trailers are designed the same. So insulation is extremely important, making sure that you have a trailer that's designed, you know, 2 inches of insulation in the walls probably isn't going to be the best trailer to put ice cream on. So it's very important that if you are hauling ice cream, that you work with the AIM personnel, make sure that they understand that so that when they are speccing your piece of equipment, that it does meet the spec, it does have the best ability to pull the ice cream. And obviously, you know, our recommendations, although any of the units can do it, our S700 is the highest capacity unit that we offer. If you're pulling ice cream all of the time, you know, an S700 with a very heavy wall trailer is optimum for ice cream. Does that answer the question? Is there anything else along with that?
He just said thank you. So I think that was good on that one, Joe. I do have a second question though. Is it better to open truck doors for a while to let out some of the heat, then close and turn on the unit, or just leave the doors open overnight?
Yeah, so anytime that you can pull the heat out, the more heat that you pull out before you start the unit, the better off you are. So, you know, leaving the doors open overnight, depending on if there's a theft issue or if you're worried about a cleanliness issue, is probably much better, absolutely. Because the cooler you can keep it inside there, the quicker it's going to pull down to maintain the temperature. So yeah, leaving them open overnight's fine. The only thing you have to worry is if it rains, you know, if you get a lot of moisture in there, obviously the refrigeration unit not only pulls heat, but it pulls moisture. So it will take a little bit longer because it's going to want to pull all that moisture out. But yeah, so either opening the doors for a few minutes, there again, before you start the unit. The quicker we get the heat out of that box, the more heat we pull out before the unit starts, the better off you are, absolutely. Great questions. Any other questions? I see it looks like there's 4 more, but
he just said thank you to that. So both questions were answered.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? And you can either verbalize them or you can use the chat function as these two gentlemen have done. Alrighty, well, I will send out a copy of this presentation, as I said, and it'll have my contact information and Joe's contact information. If there's anything either AIM or Thermo King can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out to one of us. Joe, that was fantastic. It was very informative and well done. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, Jeff.
Thank you everyone very much for attending. And if there's ever anything AIM can do for you, please let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.